All right. Hello, hello, hello. All right. Let's see. Where's my volume is at? All right. My volume was down. I hope everybody can hear me. It's a little dark. Change my light too. Sorry about that. Give me a second. All right, that should do it. Let's try to fix my camera. All right, I think my camera should be fixed. I hope you guys can hear me. A little technical difficulty right there. All right, so what's up, YouTube? What's up, YouTube? I just want to basically, run some. I'm going to give my views on some things. I mean, I do, I don't make a lot of live, but I try to come on as much as I can. I'm not. I'm working on, becoming more consistent with it. I'm working on it. I'm not fully there yet. What I've learned. This is just a little side note, just to be quick. Being on social media, or people who want to be actors, or people who want to be on the spotlight, you gotta have heart for that. And I'm not. When I say heart, I mean sometimes you gotta grow up in it, so you're accustomed and used to it. But also you gotta you have to have the niche for it, or the feel for it. If you guys understand what I'm saying. For some people, they kind of just get into it and they like it and they just keep doing it. But for some other people, this is a work in progress. Something they want to do, but they might not have the consistency, because they probably got other things to do, or they have more focused other things to do. So with that said, welcome to Nut Stations. Give me a like. Let me know how you guys, and make sure everything is good in the chat, or if anything, just let me know if I need to check my volume or anything like that. But I appreciate you guys coming in, and if you do see my live and you watch it, I appreciate you checking it out. All right, so my topic really is today is about basically, the way how I want to say a comfort and judgment, and as well the expectation of what we want out of life, especially in the times now where we're having a lot of situations going on. We're still into this whole race situation, which is a big deal. Also, too, I did highlight Ice Speed, not for the fact that we're going to talk about him specifically, but highlight the exposure that he had brought to Africa, where a lot of people across across the planet Earth didn't understand that Africa is, growing developed country. So, like, for example, get this guy named Frank Zanou. He talked about Africa not being what it is. Now, if people do their research, we know there is some pushback or some withdrawals, as well as, you want to say, as they use the word tariff these days, to kind of prevent certain countries from growing, right? Not only that, if you want to use the word blackballing, or if you want to use the word you know, sea blocking, right? There's restrictions, and there's also some, how to say, not invited to the cookout, basically, to participate in the, the growth of certain countries or resources and so forth, so forth. But they do take advantage of the Pacific country and their resources. They just can't give it, or they can't capitalize on it. Let me use that word, right? So let's start with oh, and we have I did add some relationship, conversations as well, because all of this ties into the if you want to, you going into the whole race perspective of it, it ties into relationships and how we work, how, how race, how should you say, evolve with each other, how we function as family and stuff like that. I want to start off with the actual speed thing first. And if everybody have noticed, I mean, I wouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people have noticed across, the world, especially in America, because that's one of the most criticized places, well, that I can say when it comes to judging Africa and the development of Africa, the continent itself. Like I said before, I think I did make a statement about this before. Africa have been growing despite despite a lot of the tragedies that it went to, right? It's not growing significantly fast, of course, because like I said, there's a lot of restrictions and when it comes to politics and stuff like that. Um, but it's nevertheless in between, and you know all the disparities that they have, it's still growing, because the narrative is in 2026, 2025, even from let's just go from 2020, because 2020 is like, we could call that like a modern day future type stuff, right? So in 2020, we still had seen a lot of like, Africa looking rundown, or they only speak about the rundown location, or they only document the rundown locations, and all they do is show the monuments and stuff of like slavery and stuff like that. But if you do research, and now for people who does do the research, for people who does, be curious to go to Africa, or low, if they want to use the poverty locations, when you go to these places, it doesn't look exact. It might be a low, how you want to say, a low quality of life or so forth, but the place is not fully in a poverty perspective. It's not like a it's not like the best, because everywhere in the world, it doesn't matter where you go, there's areas where it's not as developed, or you have more crime, or they're just not living up to par, like as the rich people, or in some suburban communities. So what I'm saying is this: we judge certain countries, let's say Africa specifically, as if like, all the people over there are living in the worst ways possible. They're just living like a bunch of ants, or you know cogged up in one specific area type situation. That's not it. That's not it. That's not it at all. That's not it at all. But yeah. So yeah. Okay, hold on. Give me 1 second. Yeah. So that's not it at all. You know what I'm saying? Africa is growing. And some countries in Africa is pretty much up to par. You know what I mean? people, like I still talk to people today where they still reference Africa as like a low down place, or I'm not gonna go live in the bush, or they don't have this resource and that resource. No, they do have it, right? I mean, if you want to say mainly for the richer folks, they might have access to certain things that most people don't have, but it doesn't mean that they don't have it, right? What happens too is a lot of people from Africa, they leave the country, they go to richer countries, or they go to countries that have more opportunities, and they don't bring the resources back. You know what I'm saying? And in not saying Africa don't have resources. It's just saying that Africa, the resources that they have is not, how should I say, abundance. Let me use that word. It's not an abundance compared to like going to the U.S., England, in terms of income and payments and stuff like that. So, you got to live based on what, your criteria of your country is. You know what I'm saying? Um, so, you got to live based on what your country provide, but it grows. It grows. It grows exponentially. And the more you invest into it, the more you focus on it, the more it grows. As you can see, when ISP was in, he went to about, I think it's like 20 countries in Africa, and you can see pretty much all of them. You have a few might be a little bit, behind, but majority of them are fully developed, or they're up to par. They're very modernized. You know what I'm saying? They have nice cars, modern structures, even the roads, stoplights, all of that good stuff. The story was they only got dirt roads and all this stuff, but that's not true. You see them driving on paved roads. Like, imagine, why are we talking like this in 2026 or 25 as if Africa don't have paved roads? Yeah, fine. They might not be able to build it on their own, but guess what? They did it though. Everybody need help. America need help. America needed help when they was building. America didn't build itself. It was built to help of different government and different contracts with different countries to provide certain things and bring in resources for them to build. And not to mention, they also used from like World War I and World War II, they used the scientific studies and stuff that they found from other countries to help build their country, right? To influence, and then not to mention they use their scientists and engineers for the skills that they have to work on things that America have, which is fine. It's part of war, right? But what we're saying is, what does for other countries that don't have that leverage, they're gonna move a little bit slower, but it doesn't mean it's not gonna happen. It doesn't mean they can't use other countries to do contracts with. So Africa, they're doing contracts with like with China and them places. That's fine, as long as they make good contracts where they're not being played. That's the good thing. Which I think there's 3 countries that's kind of fighting against fraudulent contracts these days, and that's a good thing. So speaking about ISP getting a passport, why not? I think a lot of Americans, I think black people all over the world should have access. I wouldn't say, everybody got to come for free because, but when it comes to, like, say, ISP, because what he did was he exposed, like, okay, I don't think people understand how important what ISP did. Because that was a plan, that was something I thought about, growing up years ago, what would be why okay, I would love to go to Africa. This was one of my ideas, right? If I had the money, I would love to go to Africa and expose, or how should you say, show, let me use the word show, the development of Africa, and just go from country to country to country to country to country in Africa, and show people that what they're talking about and what they're hearing is not actually accurate. Yes, there's some villages or some parts of Africa that's not 100%, but it doesn't mean, even in that context, it doesn't mean those people or those tribe or those locations are not modernized. They just choose to hold on to what they have because they don't want to change the values of their culture. So they might hold on to certain design, that's favorable for their society, right? It's not a crazy thing for you to maintain your society the way you want it to be for it to work. You know what I'm saying? It's not a crazy thing. But Africa always been a progressed country. And then for people to see, or for what he's doing, being a streamer and everything, for what he's doing, it's a noble thing. I mean, it's a fun thing to watch, but it's also noble as well. And I hope now that people see that, not to judge the country for what it is. Now, that kind of brings out a lot of conversations in terms of like when they talk about tethers and interruption. When they talk about tethers and all this different stuff, I mean, we're gonna always have tethers. Like they got white tethers, they got Chinese tethers, they got tethers everywhere. You know what I'm saying? It's just that people don't really talk about it like that. And then I gave up. You know what black people need to do? I mean, this is gonna sound messed up. What black people need to do, and I'm saying as a whole, give up on this whole I'm black type shit. Give up on this. When I say that, I don't mean don't identify. Because remember, the word black it's a political term. It doesn't mean you're black. It's just a political term versus white. Because they use the word white to identify themselves. So black is just a political term to identify a specific group of people. But what I'm saying is we need to give up on this whole black kumbaya, like tether type situation, about like white people giving us this and white people, we need to get reparations, and I'm not saying we don't deserve it. We do deserve it, but it's not going to happen in the way we want it to happen. Let me say it like that. It's not going to happen. So we need to not look for it because it's not going to happen. What we should do, because, some people talk, and that's another issue. We talk a lot, but we don't put the solution behind the conversation. So this is my solution. That's not a fact. It's a solution. We should more focus on developing within ourselves and our relationships to, bond and build throughout the planet. Because there's, we everywhere, right? We should have this, how should I say, communication or bonding where we like, oh, you part of my race too. Oh, okay. Oh, wow, this is, we basically came from the same place. What's up, brother? I mean, not all of us can kumbaya, but even in the context of not kumbayaing, we still have the same focal goal, the same agenda. You know what I'm saying? We know we need each other. We know this. So looking for a handout is not going to be needed. Looking for a handout is not going to happen. Looking for somebody to feed you is not going to happen. You know what I'm saying? You got to feed yourself. You know what I'm saying? And what we're doing is we're trying to separate. The problem what we're doing is we're separating within ourselves to get something greater. It doesn't work like that. Not unless you have the resources, and we don't have the resources. So how can you fight for something that you can't provide for yourself? You know what I'm saying? You can't do it. Now, I'm going to use an example like with the Asian culture, right? So when China, Japan, all these places, with the Harishiba, they were getting destroyed, right? For them to bounce back, let me tell y'all the secret. This is a secret. For China to bounce back, for the Japanese people to bounce back, yes, they did get a handout. That's true. We know they did. But the main factor, that the one thing that they did that we as, brown-skinned people don't do, or if you want to say African people, if you want to use that word, because, I use the word China, we don't see each other in the same perspective. We don't tend to like, yo, you my brother, or this is my sister, and then we bond with those people, and then we procreate and we multiply. That's what China and Japan did. That's what Kuwait did. That's what, Russian. That's what all these places that got run down. That's what they did. India, they multiply. The issue between China and India, they multiply so much that they have to put a stop to it. But the point is, you have to multiply. And in the context of multiplying, you have to have a structure, a design, a general structural design for all of the culture to understand and live by. That's what they did. Why do you think India is so focused on technology, engineer, math, stuff like that? They generally focuses on that. Well, actually, they focus on two things. They focus on education, in the technology, which is computers, engineering, and as well, that includes math, right? But what comes behind that? Family. Chinese people, same thing. Same thing. Same thing. Family. They focus on the education and then family. We don't do that. And they pull a space for their own environment because they want to teach their children. They want to teach their children and their kids. They want to teach their children, their kids, their family members, that we are all one. We all have the same goal, the same agenda. We have the same education, the same everything. They want to do that. That's how they progress for them to be where they are. So when it comes to us African people, black people, we don't stick to those things. We kind of look at, if we see another black family doing too well and they be above us or whatever, we judge those people. Now, I'm gonna be honest. A lot of these things are learned behaviors. Let's just be honest about it. Black people will never come together in that type of structural, family-orientated type situation until they notice it's a problem. But to break that problem, you have to break the ego cycle or the hatred cycle or the envy cycle and the jealousy cycle. And also we're gonna have to break the fear of, is this person worthy of being judging or worthy of being, working with. We're gonna have to break that fear. But those are attributes we're gonna have to focus on, before we even go into that type of situation, because they're gonna always be that doubt, and the doubt can make you cap out before it actually before the damage actually occur, or you could have the bad, wrong perceived notions, and to avoid those type of bad emotions and notions, you say, what, I just don't want to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? Now another part to that part is the black people who are doing good, and remember, this is a learned behavior. Like I said, I'm not blaming white people for doing like 100%, because they did what they did. They plant the seed and it happened, right? What I'm saying is we are too far into the future now for us to kind of still focus or still hold on to that type of ideology. What we need to do is say, okay, that was done. That was probably like 1-2 generations ago. This new generation have to now break out from that. You know what I'm saying? They're like people from the 80s and up, like 1980, our generation was to string away from that, slave mentality, like, I can't do nothing unless the white man, you know what I'm saying? You can, yes, you're going to have struggles. Yes, you're going to have, they rule the world, so you have to accept it. You know what I'm saying? But the goal is to work with what you have and make it become more and more and more and more and more and more. That's the goal. You know what I'm saying? The goal is to make it more and more and more. Not just focus on that one thing. But like I said, if we don't yeah, if we don't continue, if we don't focus to continue this non-biased mentality, because it's gonna, okay, like I said, biasness is gonna always be there. It's a human behavior, but it's also part of the racist type of mentality thing. So what I'm saying is, you have to we have to discipline ourselves to kind of look beyond that type of mentality and focus on just developing. But I'll put on something. Give me 1 second. I gotta pause it real quick. All right, I'm back. I'm back. Yeah. So anyway, damn, I kind of lost train of my thought a little bit. But yeah, so what I'm saying is to get back to these, for us to be able to be one or to understand each other. Like I said, we have to focus more on developing versus looking at what other people have and trying to get what they have. As us as it's everywhere. It's all over. I can't even just say it's America. I can't just say it's the Caribbean. I can't just say it's Africa. It's all over. We too focus on what other people have. Let me give side note, real side note. Once slavery was abolished, right? The full force function focus was mostly in the woman perspective. They wanted the lifestyle that white women have. They wanted the nice fridge, the nice ornaments, the nice posters, the nice everything. And the white people would even make comments to them and say, listen, we finally free y'all from slavery and y'all coming back giving us the money. Y'all ain't even trying to build your own shit. Y'all buying our shit. You know what I'm saying? Why y'all not making up your own stuff? So in 2020 now, we're still doing the same thing. If you really think about it, we're still doing the same thing. And then we complain about what they're doing. That's why I say it's not gonna work. So we need to stop trying to, this whole unity thing, it's not gonna happen. Until we fix those specific mindset, this unity thing is not gonna happen. We like children. We look for the master to please us or give us some kind of pat on the head like you did a good job. Now go out and do more. We don't have the independent mindset. And I'm saying not individually, but as a whole. You know what I'm saying? Because we have some individual, you know, you know, earthly people who can just hold their own. You know what I'm saying? And they have people who look up to them and they follow them and they see them as leaders or I should say mentors or guidance, right? But as a whole, we look at our community, and I'm talking about across the board. I'm not just saying in America, Africa, Caribbean. I'm saying all over. Majority of us, England, if you go to any country, specifically, Western country, Caribbean, African, if you go to England, I think they say Russia have the same problem with the black community there. It's a little less, but it's the same issue. I can't speak about the Asian countries too much, you know what I'm saying? But because I don't really know too much. But when it comes to the way how they view each other, it's the same problem. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is, when it comes to fixing that, we have to kind of get away from that mentality and just look at ourselves as human beings and just say we're just trying to survive. And if you just focus on the survival of it, maybe then we might view the world differently. And yes, whenever there's negative come to you, because like I said, you're gonna have disparities. It's gonna happen because we was raised into that. We are blinded. We tend to ignore that we were what we was raised into. We was raised into the slave mentality stuff. So we're gonna always see superiority when we see it. But the issue is that in order to break away from that, relationships have to change. The bonding have to change. Now, as I was mentioning about the whole ISP thing, yes, I think he should be worded. I think I respect the fact that they gave him a passport. I think that's a noble thing to do. It's a symbolism. Um, other, I would say, other valuable people should probably have the opportunity to. I'm not saying all of them, but some of them should. But they should also pull back into the country as well. Um, but okay, so ending the topic with the actual speed thing. Like I said, with that, I think it's a beautiful country. I think people need to stop judging Africa for it to be developed. Yes, it can't work, or it's not gonna. Maybe some countries it would, but not all the countries gonna work fast and independently because they have restrictions and they have, as you said, as we all know, that there's international powers that dictate how a lot of these countries move in Africa. So we have to give them grace and time for them to develop and grow the way they're supposed to grow or how they're going to grow. So you got to be patient with it. Um, Going into, with that said, like I said, salute to him and everything. Now, my next topic gonna be, fixating on the unity thing between black people, African people all over the world. I did touch on it a little bit, but I'm gonna go into it really now. When it comes to, black people, once ago I used to be very passionate about it, and I'm still am, but my expectation is more lucid now. It's not really like, because some things have to happen for me to be like, okay, I could see this happening, and though I don't think that's gonna ever happen in our time. So key factors, and I'm talking about the way how we care about each other, the way how we view other races of people, the way how we function as black people, no matter where we are, right? So this is my point. When it comes to relationship holds a core value to development. And if we don't have that bondage or that need for relationships, it's not going to work. Also too, when it comes to, religion play a part in this. I know people are going to push back on this one. Religion play a part in destroying and maintaining the destruction of those relationships because it has so many, defaults inside of how a functional relationship is supposed to be. And I wonder if, Okay. Okay. So, so what I'm saying is, relationships is a core point of, a functional society. So basically what I'm saying is this. And as you guys know, I like to base things on a nature point of view, right? Humans are no different from any animals on the planet, meaning that we have a structure just like all the other animals on the planet, right? We can we can basically we can travel pretty much anywhere, and we can pretty much live almost anywhere in this planet, right? In any habitat, as long as we can, manage it, or we build things to manage it, right? The problem that we have as humans is that we don't understand that our core basic understanding is relationship and survival multiply. That's it. But within those basic understanding, there's certain criterias have to play a role. Like, for example, we have to understand the positions that we play within man and woman, right? And those positions is that men protect and somewhat provide. Generally protect. Providing is just one aspect to, actually, it's like, let's say providing is more like a 30% aspect of the man's position when it comes to his woman, right, or his family. The protection takes 70%. You see what I'm saying? So, and what that means is that the women can also provide for themselves. That's what it also means. The design is this: if we today don't see relationship in the value that we as humans have a structural design, we think we could just alternate the way how we move and think and operate. So people would say what choices and the type of woman you want to be with and da 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 da. At a certain point in life, there's really not much of a choice for a woman to be with a man, and there's not much of a choice for a man to be with a woman. Sometimes it's more about you just being with a woman and you have to procreate. That's what it used to be. Now, even in some cases, it used to be, even in some cases, the woman would have to deal with the man she don't even like, because her survival is based on is based on that, right? And when I say survival, I'm talking about her protection, not food, because she could get food. That's not a problem. You know what I'm saying? In the present day, modern day type world, we don't see the life or relationship lifestyle or survival skill on a basic level. We see it on some kind of like high priority, my choice, my likes, my happiness type thing. Relationship is not about your choice and your happiness, right? It's not about just what you like. It's about survival. So, meaning like if you made a guy or a dude made a female, which the guys generally choose the female, generally. Sometimes the girl might like a guy and, luckily the guy like her too. But most cases, the guy chooses the female. Because the guy she want might not want her. Which means, a lot of women might like a certain type of guy. But that guy don't want her. You know what I'm saying? But it doesn't mean he can't use her, or it doesn't mean he can't take advantage of the time he have with her, but he don't want her. Now, on the flip side of that, if the dude chooses a certain woman, and that's the woman he want to be with, she's a lucky one. Let me put it like that. But in a lot of cases, the women don't want to be with the guy that chooses them. They want to go the guy that they want. But the guy that they want don't want them. I'm not saying the guy they want might not mess with them, or he might not enjoy himself with them, because men can multiply. We have a desire to just have multiple women. It's part of our nature. Like I said, that's part of our nature. We tend to debunk that nature, man's naturalistic behavior. But what I'm saying is, In that context, females need to understand that's their role, that's their position in life. The male position in life is to protect. The female position in life is to nurture, right? Or make sure she take care of the kids and stuff like that. But on the flip side, she have to provide for herself in some way, somehow. So does the male. The male have to provide for himself some way, somehow. Once they come together, yes, they both can do the same thing. Cause okay, let me give you an example. Let's say two people meet together, and male and female, together, and let's say they're in their early 20s, like say 20, They met when they was 20. They're both 20, right? And they said they've been together about 5 years. So the whole 5 years of them together, said the male, works. I'm talking about the modern day view of this relationship thing, right? Say, they've been together for 5 years, no kids. You tell it, so let's use common sense, right? So you guys saying that for a man to have a woman for 5 years, in the sense of, with no kids involved, she just stay in the house and just wash dishes and clothes and clean house. Like how dirty can the house be? How much dishes two people can create in for them to be washing clothes every goddamn day? You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to make sense of that. And then you're doing that for 5 years straight. So you got to ask the question, is you taking care, is she a child, right? Because then you got to understand too, if that's the case, then the men have to now navigate her like a child. You know what I'm saying? She'll now have to move based on how he moves, or do what he says. Because he basically, protecting her is one thing, but he also have to basically nurture her like she's a child, because men nurture kids too. So she just don't do nothing but just walk around all day and, doing nothing. He could cook too. Okay, let's compare that to a single type lifestyle. So we have a male and a female together, right, for 5 years, and then we have two people, male and a female, separate, single, for 5 years. Within that 5 years, the female got to go to work because she got to provide for herself, and prostitution is a big deal, right? So that's one of the ways they can make money, right? The other way is she could get a job, right? For males, generally we're gonna keep it to where he just gonna have to go to work, right? Because even if he try to he just gotta go to work in a male way, right? She gotta pay all her bills by herself. The male have to pay all his bills by himself. Two single people, two single households, right? They have to manage their own finances. On the flip side, you have a couple, male and a female, but the male have to hold on everything while the woman just do nothing. But yet, she still got to eat, she got to need clothes, she need, girl stuff, cosmetics and all that, different things. Like, that don't make no sense. There's no kids involved. That don't make no sense at all. None whatsoever, right? So what I'm saying is, there's a delusional mindset, or there's this, if you want to use the propaganda, conception of, lifestyle that women have, and if anything, you want to call it like a selfish, lazy way of looking at it, if you want to call it that, where the woman feel like, because there's this concept for males to be more protective and dominative in terms of, the household, that comes with that he have to financially take care of everything she have. No, that's not how it works. It works in tandem. It's both ways. It can flip, especially today in the modern world. You know what I'm saying? Especially today in the modern world. So what I'm saying is this. I gave you the two, hypothetical scenarios. But the way it's supposed to work, the natural way is a male supposed to find a female specifically, and that could be more than one. Let's just be clear. It's not just one. He could have multiple females because men have the ability to have multiple women if he chooses to do so. It's if you want to use the modern word, they call it polygamy, right? It is nature to do so. Now, in the natural way, a man's supposed to seek out a woman, find his woman, and he's supposed to take care. He does what he works and all that good stuff. She works too. She helps, balance out the situation. And when I say balance, I don't mean like a 50-50, but it's more of a duality where they kind of fluctuate with each other, right? Then, if, let's say within the 5 years of them together, and they're doing their thing, because it could be shorter than that, but let's say within 5 years, they're both balancing out each other. They're making sure that they both have, security as their life goes on together. Now the guy do have more leverage when it comes to the security realm because he protects her as the fact that she's a weaker link in terms of like physical harm, right? That's the only protection that really stand out for a woman when it comes to protection, physical harm, right? Now, protection also comes under, the household, but at the same time, like I said, he don't have to build a house. I mean, he can, you could say he build a house with his muscles, of course, but he don't have to be the only one to provide the resources to build a house. She can participate. So, like, for example, let me give you what I'm saying. Let me break it down. Meaning that, yes, he have the muscle to build a house, and he have some resources to build a house, but guess what? She also have some resources, or can add some resources to build a house, where the house can be built efficiently and stably, or in a faster, or if you want to say in a fast manner. Should the man shouldn't have to put all that shit on, all that weight on his shoulder? He could do, because at the end of the day, he could do without her. He could do it by himself. You know what I'm saying? He could take his time and do what he needs to do by himself. On the flip side, it's not the same for a female, because even though yes, a woman might be able to build a house, but would it be stable? Would it be strong enough? How long is it gonna last? Can she use the tools properly? Right? So that's where the guy comes in. And it's a duality. You know what I'm saying? They have to hold each other down. So like I said, in the modern world today, for some reason, the women want to live in the past, as they say, this is the modern age. Things have changed, but males still want to live in the past. No, we don't. We're not living in the past. It's just that things are what it is. We can't stop being males. We can't stop doing the things that we're supposed to do in terms of physically protecting the female, but we just don't have to provide 100% for the female. We don't have to provide a certain percentage because she can now provide for herself. She been providing for herself. She been be able to add assets to the household or whatever the case is. So we need to get that. Once we fix that mindset, the population will change significantly. Significantly. Now, the counteract to that would be if women don't want to participate in the financial resources situation, or they don't want to feel like they have to work or do anything like that. Guess what they have to do? Step out of the money market. But they ain't gonna do that. They're not gonna do that. Because then they'd have to submit to whatever the man controls them to do, because he have the money. And women want to have their own money to buy and do what they want to do, how they feel like they want to do it. I think it's a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. That's part of the feminist movement that I support. Women should be able to go to work and buy their own stuff and do what they want to do, but they also have to participate in the household. Do the same thing that a man support, that they so-called claim that the man's supposed to do. Because as I said, this is the modern day. If they're saying this is the modern day, you can't want to have a modern dude with a modern dude with a historical mindset. You can't have both, because the modern dudes don't do what you're asking for. They don't go for like the 50-50 type. I mean, even the modern they don't do it. They don't do it because you still want the modern day to pay for everything that the historical dudes used to do. You still want the same results, but y'all don't give the same energy. So, to fix that issue when it comes to black people specifically, in terms of us talking about unity or growing as a community, because like I said, we have had some disruptions. We know there's some things that destroyed or put in place to manipulate this, the unity between the black culture, black relationships, and stuff like that. We know this. We know the history. I mean, some people are ignorant to it, but we know that's what it was, and women know that's what it was as well. So we have to know that some of these men are raised in the same household as the same women that are complaining about the same thing that they was also taught. You can't complain about the same thing that you was raised into, and you're looking for the same results of what you was raised into, but then complain about the dude you're dating when the dude come from this dude learn the same thing that you learned. You know what I'm saying? So you can't complain about stuff like that. In order to fix that, you have to ultimately understand what a woman's position is, what a man's position is, and then we have to make it basic. Let me put it like that. Think of what a man is generally and what a woman is generally, biologically, and then put those two together and then see how it's supposed to happen, how it's supposed to work. It's not really hard to tell the difference. There's not much of like a significant difference for what a woman should be positioning or what her world should be like versus what a man's position and what his world should be like. But when you bring those two worlds together, the position and two worlds, you can see how they come together and play a part, and they don't intertwine. There was so much different, like in the past, women generally don't associate. And when I say associate, they don't generally group up with boys consistently. You never see a woman with a bunch of dudes all the time. Oh, I have a bunch of male friends. No, that was not normal, because women around boys, it doesn't bring a positive thing. You know what I'm saying? It kind of disrupt the psyche of how women think and how male think. Because if we look at presently today, you see women don't want to be like dudes and dudes want to be like women. So that's one of the reasons for that type of behavior. And as well as sexual attraction too, because you don't want people to just, you want to keep when two people, when the opposite of humanity sexes don't be in the same room 24/7, when they do come together, the attraction is even more stronger. It's even more divine. But when it's not, when they're always around each other, go up together in the same house, the sexual attraction, it becomes normal. It becomes undesirable. And then when something is undesirable and it becomes normal, you tend to want to treat it a certain way where it's just like, yeah, I don't really care about that. And then you don't really get the results you're looking for. But anyway, so those within those topics, hoping if anybody, I said a few people did come in and check me out, but give me a like, let me know you like the video. I don't know if my chat is off. I don't know if it's on or off. I can't see no messages. I don't know why, but just give me a like. Let me know what you guys think. Until the next one.